So, hello and welcome to the Everyday Adventure Podcast Adventure Mind crossover. This is our mini series where we're showcasing the brilliant work of Belinda Kirk, who founded Adventure Mind in the Adventure Mind community. And as probably many of you will know her for her wonderful book, Adventure Revolution. Fans of the podcast, those of you who listen for a while, will have heard my previous interview, my previous conversation with Belinda a couple of years back now. I think it was sort of back of COVID, which is mad now when I think about it. But Belinda's been up to a lot since then. I think it's safe to say. So it's wonderful to welcome her back as the founder of Adventure Mind. And I'm going to be speaking to her today to give you a bit more insight into Adventure Mind, what it is, what's inspired her to get started, what are some of the benefits that come from it and where she's hoping to go to. And hopefully for those of you who are signed up to attend the conference in November, this will inspire you and excite you even more. For those of you who've never heard of Adventure Mind, hopefully it will encourage you to look more into the incredible work they're doing, particularly in the world of research, which is something that's very close to my own heart. So Belinda, welcome to the show and to the Adventure Mind Everyday Adventure crossover podcast mini series, whatever you want to call it. It's wonderful to see you again. And yeah, lovely to have you here.
Oh, great. Thank you for inviting me back again. It's great to have a chat. It's always great to catch up. We're very aligned with a lot of our beliefs and what we're trying to do. So it's really good to have a chat to you again, Nikki.
Yeah, and obviously I should mention that this podcast, the Everyday Adventure podcast, was kick-started. So I finally got into action in May 2020 and got started with the podcast. And I was inspired to actually get on with it as a result of attending the first Adventure Mind conference back in, I believe it was February 2020 or March 2020. It was literally just before we went into that first lockdown there here in the UK. And the idea had been bubbling away in my head for ages, and I hadn't quite managed to get to a point of actually doing anything about it. I went to the conference and I came away so sort of inspired and energized. And then the Everyday Adventure podcast emerged as a result. So I have to thank Belinda and her brilliant speakers for that as well. But Belinda, what I would love to know is, so for people who've not heard of Adventure Mind, would you be able to sort of, I guess, give a bit of a summary as to what it is? And I guess really, obviously last time we spoke was about your book Adventure Revolution, but where the idea and the inspiration behind Adventure Mind and the community you have built came from.
Well, do you know what happened with you and your brilliant podcast is exactly what Adventure Mind is all about, really. It's about trying to inspire more work in this area. It's about getting the message out. And that's really where it all came from. For 30 odd years, I'd witnessed the power of adventure. As a child, as a teenager, and through my whole life, actually, I've personally experienced the power of adventure to improve my own well-being. And I just wanted to share that. I want to rebrand adventure. I want more people to understand that adventure isn't a frivolous thing, but it's something that we should be choosing for ourselves and our families and our friends. And so Adventure Mind is essentially all about helping more people to use adventure for their well-being and mental health. That's the point of it. And in order to do that, we're not a company or a charity or even a charity or anything like that at the moment. What we're trying to do is just collaborate. We're trying to build a collaboration of individuals and organizations that already know about this, kind of feel this or see this, and trying to support each other to help each other do what we do. I really love the idea of a collaboration. I think there's all sorts of barriers to funding and all sorts of unsustainability of trying to keep things going. But if we can just create a network whereby we support and help each other, that's a great way of doing things. I think more should be done in the world like that. If only. So really, it's organizations, individuals coming together and creating projects, making things happen under that banner of helping more people use adventure for their mental health. So it's currently, although there's lots of other things, pots boiling in the background, It's currently the conference series. The first conference was very much aimed at the scientific community. And what I had found trying to write my book and trying to create an argument of adventure for well-being is I couldn't find enough research, recent research. There was a lot done like 40 years ago, but there was hardly anything recently. So what I wanted to do was try to push the adventure research community and sort of re-inspire them to like, we need more in this area. As a practitioner, I've witnessed this again and again and again, and there will be practitioners out there listening or that you'll have met who see the power of adventure. It's just that maybe we don't have the words or the data to prove it or to express it or communicate it in the right way. So very much the first conference was directed at the research community to like, let's think about adventure as this much wider well-being tool. How can we get more done, and how can we share the research that is done? It was so successful, and there's now so much more being done in this area that actually all the sort of subsequent conferences are much more at promoting the message and supporting the practitioners, supporting people who are doing this. And that means not just people who are adventure therapists, but people who are also working in this area, but wouldn't maybe identify themselves as doing this. So there might be occupational therapists or counselors or outdoor leaders and instructors that kind of are doing this, but are not a full adventure therapy qualified professional. But they're doing so much good work. How can we help support them? How can we give them the tools, the research to communicate the value of their work? And how can we help them do it better? So help them get funding and all these other things. So the conferences are there for everyone to go to, but they are particularly directed at the practitioner. But lots of people who are just interested in this area, might be coaches, writers, just people who've adventures changed their life. They come along to the conference but out of interest as well. So it's an amazing, dynamic and very varied community. So there's the conference is kind of the core of the Adventure Mind, because that was about getting people together, supporting each other and getting more things happening. Since then, it's also grown into a grant. So we have this wonderful Adventure Mind grant, which we've done for the first time this year, which is aimed at those who might otherwise not be able to access adventure. And so we've given out the first grants this year, which has been fantastic. And we're just about to talk about how that's worked out for people, which is very good. And also, really key part of it, and very connected to the conference, is that it's a research and evidence collaborative now. So there's an international set of experts who are trying to promote more research in this area and also produce evidence summaries, which are really useful for people, educators, parents, outdoor professionals. It's a kind of quick fix way of saying, look, here's the evidence, rather than expect everyone to find the evidence, is to explain why does adventure work in certain areas, and here's the evidence to show that. So there'll be one coming on climbing, on parkour, on surfing, different areas, but also for different groups like children, adults, people with different backgrounds and so on and so forth. So all sorts of evidence. I mean, we're all volunteering. This is all work that we're doing alongside our other work, because it will because we believe that it needs to be done. So yes, I don't know, I'm waffling on, but Adventure Mind is really about a coming together of people who are interested in this area. And really there's other projects bubbling, because it's like, well, if we can just collaborate and help each other, then all sorts of other ideas are coming up. And it's like, well, let's just it's very easy to like want to do everything at once, but I'm having to hold back. There's all sorts of other things that will hopefully come along in the future, like campaigns and so on. They all link in very well, but as I say, it's just trying to getting it all going. But we've just done our first evidence summary, which is all about the benefits of adventure for children. I think it'd be really useful for academics and practitioners, written by academics and practitioners, but it's for parents, carers, educators, policymakers, therapists, outdoor leaders, everyone that might work with children or have children or whatever. It's a really great way of summarizing the evidence in a very clear, concise, easy to read, it's non-jargon. Because I think again, my book started this, it was trying to create an argument as to why adventure is important. Well, these evidence summaries are just more quick, focused and really accessible ways to do that.
Gosh, I mean, I think what's so fascinating, and I think what engaged me sort of with Adventure Mind early on is, like you said, it's just the potential. As much as, there's all the work you are doing, which is incredible in a space that has, I think, historically been quite siloed and disparate, and you have people working in, using adventure in its broader sense in all so many different ways in different areas. And like you said, then there have been these sort of pockets of research, and I know from my own background, sort of researching this for my master's and now looking at it for my doctorate, is that when you try and enter whatever the evidence base might look like, there are pockets of brilliant research, but it's scattered, and it's hidden, and it's like you said, you're having to go into it with an academic researcher mindset in order to try and uncover some of that, and that's so challenging. If somebody, as you said, you have practitioners, you have people working with with young people, taking them out, doing outdoor activities, whatever line of work people are in, that actually they sort of know at a anecdotal or at an emotional level this makes a difference, but being able to provide that research and scientific rigor behind it, I think is so valuable, and helping people not have to go and spend hours trying to work through and work out what's quality evidence and all that sort of thing. I mean, I think what's really interesting is, like you said, is the appeal to so many different groups of individuals and organizations that are sort of working in this space. And I was just wondering, for you, having now run this, I guess this is the 4th year of Adventure Mind in terms of the conference. And as you said, there's so many different sort of offshoots to that now as well, and your bit around the research. But what have some of the key benefits that you've seen develop over that time? What are the things you go, that's either exactly where I was hoping to get to with this, or that's a benefit or an area that I never saw coming, but isn't it incredible that this is what this has enabled?
From the conference or from the whole?
I think from
the
the conference and the whole concept, I suppose, when you originally came up with the idea behind it.
Well, if I think back to 10 years ago when I talked to people about adventure, and you often get this like, oh, adventure's not for me. That is what I hear a lot. And people think of it as very elite, very it's something that other people do. And when you start telling them that it's essential for, like, it's an essential part of being human, and it's a wonderful part, and it's totally accessible for everyone, it was just like people just didn't believe me, I guess, unless they were already in those circles. So definitely the branding of adventure was very much not what I representative. Now, when I talk to people that I've never met, that should hopefully also be from that, that background, that they're not already indoctrinated and very excited about all of this. There's, I think, partly because the idea that nature's good for you. And I think because we talk about well-being more, and because we have a crisis of well-being and mental health, for all of those reasons, and COVID, I mean, as awful as COVID was, for so many of us, sometimes things get worse before they get better. So the mental health of our country, and of not just our country, but globally, things got so bad that I think that we are now addressing things more. So people are more open to different ways to address this problem. And it's not just the not old fashioned, that's maybe not the right word, the traditional ways of doing it, with CBT and those sorts of therapies, but there's so much more appetite for a wider thinking around what can we do around this mental health crisis, because we can't just put everyone through CBD. We can't, we have to also, of course, prevent this stuff happening. What have we done in society? It's not just COVID. COVID pushed us to this limit, but society has the societies we've built have created this problem. I've forgotten what the question was now.
That's all right. It was really interesting regardless.
Where did it? So, that was it. What's changed?
Yeah.
So back 10 years ago, I would tell people adventure is actually essential and really good for you. It's not just a thing that you do because you've got, it's not a holiday. If seeking out adventure is really important. Now I'm hearing it back from people. I literally hear phrases from my book from people. And there's definitely a different dialogue. I mean, of course, it's not just down to me. There's a lot of other people working in the space, but there is a massive change since the first conference. The first conference, I think, really opened up because it was international and because it was trying to engage but also empower. It's a bit like you starting your podcast. There was this wave of people contacting me saying, since the conference, I've now retrained in this, or since reading a book, I've now redone this. I've set up a whole new business, a whole new charity, a whole new CIC, and now I take 50 people a year on my coaching course, or I take. There's just this it's just expanded from me just trying to tell people to that conference really lit it. And then my book, I mean, I love the responses I get from my book because I get such response, emails and Instagram messages and stuff. I don't know, because it's we individually impact people, but then they go and impact. I think there's something about adventure being good for you that then they go and infect the next person with the contagion of excitement, because it's not just, oh, you need to do something to improve your mental health. This is like an exciting thing we're asking you to do. Yes, it's intimidating. I totally understand that for a lot of people it's just too much, but or not too much, but it's not that easy. But for a lot of people, they've been waiting for this invitation almost. So it's really, people get excited about it, and it's a message people want to hear. Maybe, I don't know, but definitely people are talking differently. I see constantly getting things coming back to me. It's like, oh yeah, we've changed our whole marketing now. We've changed our whole, because we came to because the conference brought so many people from so many different, all the conferences, they bring not just one industry, they bring a multi-industry. It's like people from multiple industries. And that's why it's so exciting, these cross-pollinizations. And yeah, the impact is really, I think, big. So it's great. I've blathered on.
No, I think what I was just thinking is, as you were talking about it, your point about, the I guess the ripple effect, but it's sort of stronger than the ripple effect, how people get energized and enthused and sort of want to carry it on. And I was just thinking, listening to you just talk about it, even without attending the conference, there's clearly so much of your own energy and passion that goes into it that it's hard not to be enthused just as a result of listening to it. So I can only imagine, just to say to people, it's like tenfold in the conference, you get that. But also I was just thinking, because I love the way you described it as an invitation, that actually, you've galvanized people to act, but you've extended an invitation going, this is possible, and we'd like you to join the party. Whereas previously, I think, I think it's so interesting, this idea of adventure as a sort of a closed, invite-only space that is only available to certain people from certain backgrounds and doing certain types of activities. This sort of open invitation to go, actually, this is important for all of us, living adventurously, which is so much the philosophy of this podcast around, how can you invite sort of adventure into your daily lives. And I was just thinking, having started that, having opened that invite out, where would you like to take this? What are the next steps for you?
Oh, well, I have so many things. I mean, I have too many ideas. That's the problem. And I'm one of those people also who's asked to do stuff and goes and says yes far too easily. And I'm really much better at saying no now, which is really good. Because you have to, yeah, for everything you say yes to, you're basically saying no to a whole load of other things. And it's I think it's becoming a mum as well. I don't have infinite amounts of time. I used to be a workaholic, and now I'm much better at saying I'm passionate about what I do, but I cannot do everything. The key thing that I'm trying to do is to build something that is very collaborative and that lots of people have a say over. I think in the past, adventure not only is something that is seen as being elite or not for you, but also in the adventure industry, the feedback I got an awful lot, and some really interesting responses I got around the conference was people wanting to protect their information and protect their intellectual property, if you like. And there's this kind of, there's a siloing. I think it's because we don't value the adventure industry, so there's not enough money in it, there's not enough resource in it, so that everybody's scrabbling around trying to, not everybody's scrabbling around, but there's just not enough resource. And when there's not enough resource, people can become quite closed up. And a lot of people have said that to me. I never had realized it or thought about it until the conferences, and having people not want to share. What I found interesting was people didn't want to share their discoveries around coaching, around how they do outdoor instructing, how they do their different courses and so on. I found that extraordinary. And I've had a lot of conversations since about, why is it that adventure isn't valued enough, and why is it that we're not collaborating more? And I don't have the answers. I've started to glean some answers from other people and from experience, and from experience from people sort of saying I'm not going to share. But I think what I want to try and do is just collaborate more. And I think the more that we try to compete, the less we're not going to get very far. If we really want to make real change, we've got to collaborate. So what I'm trying to do with Adventure Mind is, at the moment, I'm kind of driving a lot of it, but really in the future, I want it to become a collaborative, much more, and it is becoming, each year it's much more collaborative, that different people have got different pots, that different projects that they are driving, and also I'm running out of idea. I'm only one brain. We need lots of people's brains to feed this, and there's so many talented, experienced, wonderful people now driving different parts of it. And I mean, for me, I'm terrible at organizational red tape and paperwork and stuff, but we need to create a framework for it, and I really need help. So if anyone knows how to set up a CIC or a collaborative, I really want it to be able to work without funding, because we don't have the resources in this area. And I think it just needs to be, projects need to support themselves, but we need to collaborate to help each other. And so, and that's my challenge at the moment after the conference and so on, is how can we build this collaborative that will go forwards, where everybody's equal, people take roles for a certain number of years, but preferably we don't need funding apart from it per project, but something that we can just run between the community of practitioners and researchers to really, and what I've seen in other outdoor organizations, or definitely the feedback I've got from a lot of people, is that sometimes they can be quite closed or cliquey, or and this isn't, I'm not trying to sort of take a pot shot at any outdoor or adventure or whatever organization. It's just, there's a perception of this. So I really want that perception not to be around Adventure Mind, because the whole point is to create a collaborative. So anyway, trying to figure out what that is in this competitive and in a society that is built on competition and what's the word? I can't think of the word. Not democracy, but we buy stuff. Commercial, no, what's the word I'm looking for? I can't think of it.
Yeah, commercialization. I don't know. But I think what's so interesting is what you're saying around adventure. Like you said, as you just mentioned, the wider culture, that's exactly what I was thinking, that one of the challenges I think that we encounter at all levels, and that impacts on our well-being fundamentally, because we are, we evolved as group animals. In the end, we were designed for social connection and engagement with each other and supporting each other, because we wouldn't have got very far without it, because we didn't have big pointy teeth and claws and things, and it's something that whenever I'm working with organizations and teams, I'm saying, look, you're meant to work together, but actually we exist in a culture that is so individualized, that is about that you rise and fall on your own merit. And then interesting how when you think about that in the sort of, I guess, the microcosm of adventure terms, that actually that's one of the challenges, is actually how do you step out, how do we as individuals step out of that individualization and reap the benefits broadly of that interconnection and that collaboration. It's a perennial challenge, I think, but I think what is amazing is in terms of how far you've managed to achieve that with Adventure Mind to this point, and that there are so many possibilities. I think, going back to that point about potential, that there are lots, but it requires people to step up and step forward and support in the ways that they can. So if somebody is listening to this, going to the question that I ask all of my guests, and I know you've answered this before, but I deliberately am not going to reference what you said before, because I think it's important that we all change and come up with new ideas as well. But if someone's listening to this and they think, you know what, one, I don't really know anything about the adventure world per se, or Adventure Mind, I wouldn't be ready for anything like this, but I love the idea of finding a way to live more adventurously. I'm feeling stuck. I'm feeling like I need my world to open up more. I mean, what's the one piece of advice that you would give them?
I'm really interested in authenticity at the moment, because I'm interested in this whole area of adventure and well-being. Obviously, it's something I've obsessed about for a decade because it saved my life. And the more I think about it, I think we step into nature and adventure, and it's the one of those few places in our world that we can be authentic, and you're forced to be authentic. And I think that's why part of why it's so good for us. We can find ourselves literally. So I would say, if you want to be more adventurous, I would say being authentic is freedom, authenticity, adventurousness. These are all so connected. Play, it's all so connected. These are almost interchangeable ideas. So I would say, go and find an adventure that you want to do on your terms, in your way. I've been down I've made lots of mistakes that I see I've made lots of mistakes that I now realize, like going after world records and stuff, and like coming back from an adventure and immediately planning the next one without the rest, reflection, in learning. There's all these sorts of ways that you can do adventuring that actually takes away some of the value. So don't do something because it's going to look good on your CV. Don't do something because your friend's doing it like that, or that's the way you think it should be done. Just try and think. I define adventure as a voluntary activity that involves uncertainty, challenge, and adversity. Essentially, very short, a chosen challenge. Oh, wait a minute. Hello, darling. Can I have 5 more minutes, sweetie? Sorry.
That's
you're going to hide
right.
down there? Okay, well, you can go outside. Okay, sorry. I've lost my chain of thought a little bit.
Chosen challenge.
My little adventure.
Perfect
Chosen
timing.
challenge. Chosen challenge. Choose your challenge. Choose what you want to do. Jackson here has his favourite challenges. And when you're that age, you just choose. You don't have all this expectation, and you're not trying to, you go out and you find adventures. So I would just say, be authentic. Just that's the best way of doing it.
I love that. I'm also totally distracted by your gorgeous son in his Spider-Man outfit coming in the background. Just like, I don't care. I'm here. I'm being my authentic Spidey self. Um, I really love that piece about authenticity. I think it doesn't get talked about enough. And I think it is often where we lose ourselves. And I think we lose ourselves. Obviously, I spend a lot of time, working in the business world or working in organizations and work. And so many of the challenges I think that people face is because they've forgotten, or they don't prioritize the power of those sort of authentic connections and that connection with themselves. Who am I? What do I even want? What am I doing this for? Why am I here? And who are these people around me? And I don't know them. I know them to sort of send a very bizarre email to that has lots of abbreviations, but I don't know them. I don't know what drives them. And therefore there's a sort of a gap between how we exist on a day to day, but actually, what really fills us up. And coming back to your point around well-being, actually it's when we feel connected with ourselves, with the world around us, with the people around us, that actually we feel well. So I think that's just such a lovely note to end on. Belinda, thank you so much for your time today. If people want to find out more about you and your work, about Adventure Mind, where can they go?
I have a website, belindakirk.com, but Adventure Mind has a website, adventuremind.org. I do a bit of social media. I'm not a big fan of social media, but I do a little bit. I try
Join
to
the
do
club,
it.
yeah.
Explorers Connect. Explorer Belinda is mine, and we have just started an Adventure Mind one as well. Adventure Mind Conf, CONF. But the
Brilliant.
websites will have the information. Hopefully come along to the conference or read the book or just go out and have an adventure. And
Amazing.
go and have an adventure is probably the best.
Start there and then all of the rest of them as well. We'll pop all of those links in the show notes as well so that people can come and find you and find out more about everything that you do. As I said, it's been such a pleasure to speak to you again. Thank you so much for rejoining me on the podcast. And I know we've got another 5 of your previous speakers, potentially some future speakers as well, people who've been heavily involved in the Adventure Mind community as well, coming up over the course of this mini series. So hopefully that's sort of whet everybody's appetite and set the tone for the conversations to come. But thank you so much. I'm really looking forward to November. I think it's going to be an amazing couple of days as always. And yeah, wish you all the very best of it with it as well. Take care.
Thank you. Great to speak to you
Bye.
again. Cheers,
Bye.
Nikki.